All right, let's get started. And it's not early morning. Been doing a really good job of sleeping in a little bit, keeping my alarm off. Although my wife's alarm went off at an early morning, but I went back to sleep. And my daughter woke me up in the middle of the night just so that she could change positions where she's sleeping. She was sleeping in the closet. We have this big coat closet that's kind of under the stairs, and so it was built so that you could store a lot of things on it. And what we store in there is our people. We have a pillow in there and light, and she just had a sleeping bag and blanket and stuff. She was sleeping in there, and then she woke me up. We'll try to wake my wife up, but she's not gonna wake up. Woke me up, and then I took her downstairs. She wanted to sleep on the couch, so she needs some help with that. Anyway, she went back to sleep eventually. I did too, and then I woke up, and here I am. My son woke up. It's about the same time. My son wakes up about this time. So, but thanks for joining me. We're continuing on with this journey through Proverbs. And yeah, I really appreciate wherever you are in the morning, early morning, late morning, lunchtime break, in the evening, whatever time you're joining me. Hopefully, um, going over these verses are encouraging to you. Proverbs is the wisdom verses. And so we're going to be talking about that. I did do an initial thoughts about the verse today, and it's a standalone verse. And I think Proverbs is just giving a fact. And as a wise person who's righteous, what can we do about this thing? And so okay, here it is. Proverbs 13:23 in the ESV. The fallow ground of the poor would yield much fruit, but it is swept away through injustice. The fallow ground of the poor is a positive, would yield much fruit. But it is swept away. Swept away. I think I'm going to do it this way. Injustice sweeps it away. Okay. So I had to think about this for a little bit. I looked up the commentaries and everything, and made me kind of realize the situation. And one of the situations, the reality of the world right now is that the poor is taken advantage of. They get arrested, the property gets taken away and everything. The biggest thing, the biggest example that I'm thinking about that comes straight to my mind is big gigantic share property owners who let out their land, like farmers, in the olden, I guess there's an olden day where they have a, a tenant who would rent out the portion of the land so that the tenant could go ahead and create their own land and build their own crops and go ahead and sell their property and all that kind of stuff. And what happens is that the the tenant is the person renting is definitely beholden to whatever the owner says. And if you that would be considered a poor. Okay. We could also go nowadays with the issue with the housing market. And this is a dialogue that's been happening a lot with whoever. Anyone who comes to America comes with this idea that you could go ahead and live a certain kind of life, own a house, family, and all kinds of stuff, like white picket fence and all kinds of stuff. It was the American dream. And that dream is being deferred. And it has to do with, without any research or any looking into it, is the I feel like there's this disagreement between how much a regular person makes as a career average versus the cost of how much it costs to own a house. And I feel like me coming from a not very wealthy family in this time, Even when I was younger, my family has never been really wealthy. We rented, and I guess we have always rented, and I myself am a renter. And so I didn't never had like legacy wealth, so to say. Legacy wealth, if you don't know what that is your family is generally wealthy and they own their own property, maybe have their own business, or worked at a certain place where it's work at a certain place where it allows them to purchase a house because they make a lot of money. And which is interesting because I'm going to talk about the boomers. And the boomer era, from what I hear, is that the boomers, I'm talking about Gen X, Gen Z, Gen Y, those kind of things. But the boomers, there's also millennials and stuff like that. The boomers were in a generation where if they work really hard, they're able to buy a house and all that kind of stuff. And my my family, even though my parents are of the boomer age, uh, never really owned a place. We didn't, and we're renters, and we're never really good with money. We weren't wise with money. I myself started off not wise with money. I'm wise now, but when I first started, I got my first credit card. I maxed that out really quick. Oh my gosh, I have a free couple $100, and that's actually how much minimum they gave me at the very beginning. And it took me a long time to pay that all off because it accrued a lot of interest and all kind of stuff over time. And that's I would be considered poor, but even poor people have fallow ground, and they would yield much food. And so it took me a long time, but I, and like any other, like my situation, was poor, but just because you're poor doesn't mean you cannot yield benefits or to society and stuff like that. So I worked really hard and was able to get through college. I started off with community college. I was there for a long time because I didn't have a good sound basis for what I should do in life. It actually was to go to college for me because of the job I have. I'm an educator and I have to get certifications to go ahead and teach and all that kind of stuff. So I did all that, went through many years, got my bachelor's, started working, got my master's and teaching credential, got a job, and yeah, now I'm working like six figures. And I think being a poor person, I so to say, and being able to get myself out of poorness and actually making six figures, which doesn't really mean much in this day and age because I live in the Bay Area. Six figures is like the starting point. Um, like even then, you're still going to struggle unless you're living by yourself. That's a little different. If you're living by yourself and everything, I'm not sure, but all I know is that ever since I started working, got married and everything like that, and my wife didn't even really work. She didn't bring in a lot of money, and even now she's working. She's bringing like $1,000 a month, whatever. If that, she's just helping out. Uh, whether or not that's going to be her career, because she was basically grown up in grown up in a culture where she had to get a degree and work a really good job and all that kind of stuff. But she never did that. She opted to go home and stay home and raise my kids, and we were only living off of one income. Here and there, she kind of picked up some money here and there, and she had kind of a side hustle and stuff like that, but they didn't bring in a lot of money. So yeah. But the thing is, before I even got my job, I was follow ground. It's basically I was ready to be productive in society as a poor person, but it needed to be seeded. And so the seeds were planted, and now I'm living in the fruits of my labor. And I'm renting still, but I'm renting in a place that's a lot better than I did before. And I'm hoping to be thriving here, continuing on. So, but unfortunately, that dream, and I feel like it is an injustice that I've worked really hard, and yet I cannot own my own place. It's just a thing. I worked really hard, went through the proper channels, and because back in the days, oh, you have to go to college so you could get a job and everything. But that's not true. You don't need to go to college to get a job. need to go to college to get certain jobs, but they're just taking your money if you don't know what you want to do. If you don't know what you do and you still want to go to school, go to community college. Figure out what you want to do in community college and work. I mean, maybe work part time or even full time and go to college part time, whatever. Whatever the case, everyone has a different situation. And if you're going to get into a situation where it's like a very skilled, as in mentally skilled, like teaching, engineering, being doctor, lawyer, and all the kinds. Yeah, you need to go to school for those things. But the other jobs, there's tech jobs like if you want to be a plumber, electrician, all that kind of stuff. You need to go to different places. You don't need to go to like spend $50,000 to get a degree and all that kind of stuff. Um, I don't know the actual number. That's what I feel. But I'm just saying that that's a reality. And the Proverbs is showing what the reality is that as a poor person myself, it's hard, and people can take advantage of me and stuff like that of my situation. So you have to find managers and owners and all that kind of stuff um, who will take care of you also. And I feel like I was blessed and benefited from being able to live the life that I have, and I think it's a really good thing. And I thank God for it. That I stuck to the righteous living, being wise, having wisdom as my guide, and everything on the side. And so, yeah, I think even though there is injustices, so how can I not be discouraged by the injustices in the world? I still have to work hard, do the best that I can in the things that I do, and hopefully you can do that too. Because no matter your situation, you have the potential to be produce a lot of fruit is what I would say. So would yield much fruit. So that's it's assuming that you realize this. You would yield much fruit. You will. Unfortunately, there is injustice and it gets swept away. So, but go ahead and continue on. I'll go ahead and thank you. Oh, I was writing it in the chat. Thanks for joining me. Have a good day. So, anyways, have a good day and realize your potential, and it is a positive potential that you can go ahead and make a difference in the world. You can. It does take a little bit of work, and you have to build a community that will go ahead and support you and stuff like that. Don't do it alone. It's not, and there is injustices, but there's also people who will go out there and help you. But you have to find your community that will do that. Anyways, thanks for joining me today. I'll see you guys next time.